It's a sad fact that even in this digital age, there are some shows and films that will never appear on DVD or Blu-ray or even streaming. Some have been released on VHS, but odds are you'll never be able to own them on disc. That's because the potential audience might be too small, so there's no financial incentive to make those home media offerings. Or getting the rights would be a huge hassle. Or the original elements have degraded or have been lost, so there's nothing to work with. If they ever were put on a DVD, it was probably using an inferior knockoff or public domain videotape source. And even then, any such disc is out of print and astronomically priced. Most, though, just languish on video cassettes, unless some kind soul uploads a copy of a VHS tape to YouTube. And these are usually low res, but at least they exist. Hey friends, Barkey J Dog here, and this time we're taking a look at some 1980s sci-fi trapped on video. Fair warning, as you know, I usually work with stills in my videos because that way I get less hassle from the copy bots. But some of these look more watchable in motion than the stills might imply, and I'll link to those videos down below there for you. First up, how about this one? Anyone remember seeing this back in the day? Murder in Space, a TV movie from 1985. Here, a spaceship with an international crew is on its way back from Mars after successfully landing humans there for the first time. But there's some controversy. See, the Ruski crewman isn't happy about some of the orders the American captain has given on the mission, and then some crewmen start getting bumped off. As the flight makes its way back to Earth, other crew people wind up dead too. This leads to international disputes with the Ruskis, who are up to no good, as usual. And it's a race to return the survivors back to Earth. In our cast, we have Wilford Brimley as the mission controller at NASA, or something like NASA, and Martin Balsam plays his opposite number from the Kremlin. Michael Ironside plays the captain. Tom Butler plays Major Steiner. He's appeared in a metric ton of things over the years. So is Wendy Crewson, who plays Irene. You'll spot Peter Dvorsky here. He was in Videodrome, Twins, Millennium, which I've reviewed elsewhere on the channel, and The Dead Zone. Kathy Sheriff is here too. We've talked about her before in my review of Cover Girl. She was in All That Jazz and played Valkyrie in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. After this project, she gave it up and went into real estate, and she's had a successful career there. Damir Andre plays the no-good Ruski crewman. Again, he was in lots of stuff like Dead Ringers, FX2, and the 2002 remake of Rollerball. Murder in Space was made for the Showtime cable channel, and it came with a gimmick. Showtime did not actually show you the ending. Instead, they invited viewers to play whodunit, offering cash prizes to whoever could figure out who the killer was and solve the crime. Now, this was released on VHS with an ending, so we know who the bad egg was. What I like about this one is that it takes its premise seriously. It isn't just some homicidal maniac running around because of spending too much time in space or something. It's a proper murder mystery with a killer that has a definite motive. Where does Murder in Space fall down? Well, pretty much everything here implies the story is set in the near future, or the very near future. So maybe 5 years on, like 1990 or so. Still pretty optimistic. But all of the control panels and instruments and all of that we see are compatible with that time frame. Even the interior of the spaceship is not too advanced. Roomy, but still believable. Some of the crew quarters are very small, that's believable. I thought those sets and the astronauts' jumpsuits and all of that looked pretty good. No, Where this one falls down for me is the ship itself. Just take a look at this thing. It's a gorgeous miniature, right? A good-looking ship. If this were Battlestar Galactica or Star Wars or something. But it's way too advanced for 1990 or 1995 or even 2025, am I right? It's much too futuristic. What they needed here was something more like the spacecraft from Mission to Mars, something based on existing NASA tech. So while the ship looks cool, it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. Still, I was struck by how original the concept for this thing was. A proper murder mystery set in space is different, so I liked that. So dated as it may be, Murder in Space is still worth a watch. Next up, how about Wavelength from 1983? In this one, our hero Bobby is a musician who's kind of a loser. One night at the bar, he meets a cute chick and they hit it off. Then they get it off. But she's a little spacey. She can hear something that sounds like whale song. Turns out she's on the same wavelength as some aliens the government has captured and are keeping in suspended animation in a secret base not far from where her new boyfriend lives. With help from Dan, an old-timer, Bobby and the chick investigate, promptly get captured, and it all goes south from there. See, these aliens are intentionally or unintentionally dangerous. If you touch one, you die because they steal all your energy. And it's implied the crash site of their ship has become sterile and people nearby have died off. In a panic, the military decides to bury the secret base and the aliens and our lovers with it. The military is totally believable in this. You can really buy the way they react and respond to events. What few special effects we see are recycled from Starman. In our cast, David Carradine, son of the famous John Carradine, plays our love interest Bobby, the musician. He was in Revenge of the Nerds, The Big Red One, Escape from L.A., The Long Riders, and just a ton of stuff, including Orca, another movie I've reviewed. And we have Sherry Curry, one of the Runaways. She left the group to pursue acting in a solo career. I thought she was quite all right in this one. She hasn't done too many roles since, sadly. We also have character actor Keenan Wynn as the old-timer Dan. Again, we see him wearing this beat-up hat he always wore in his movies. Rumor has it that he swiped the hat from the MGM lot when he was making westerns there. He found out Leslie Howard wore the hat in Gone with the Wind, so he swiped it and used it in all of his movies after that. That may not be true, but it's a cool story anyway. Bobby DeSico makes a brief walk-on cameo in this one. We last saw him in my review of 1941. I got the feeling that if he wasn't just doing a favor for the filmmakers, this was a huge come-down for him. After all, he was pretty much the lead character in 1941, and it was all downhill from there. Almost as if DeSico got the blame for 1941 flopping. Pretty unfair. I liked him in that. He went on the next year to appear in The Philadelphia Experiment, Splash, and in 1987, Number One with a Bullet. I've reviewed two of those elsewhere on the channel, but it just seemed hit or miss for the poor guy, and he never got a part as big as what he had in 1941. I liked this one for what it was, and I'm surprised it's still trapped on video. Now, technically, unlike these others, Wavelength was actually released on DVD, but that was only as the lower half of a double bill and put out by an El Chapo company. And the disc is out of print, and you know they probably just used a VHS copy. Speaking of which, then there was Thrillkill, a Canadian film from 1984. In this one, we start out promisingly enough with a lady hacker chick hacking stuff to an 80's soundtrack. She breaks into a banking database and electronically skims off some dough. Millions, in fact. Then she hides the secret code deep within a game she's developing. That's what she does when she isn't hacking. She makes video games. Well, now, everyone is after her in order to get this money. But don't worry, spoiler alert, she gets bumped off. So it turns out she wasn't the main character after all. No, her sister is. See, the hacker chick left some clues for her sister to find the money. Now, several groups are after this cash, and they play pretty rough. First is the boss guy at the video game company who hires these two. Not Lionel Richie, and not Sheena Easton. Not Sheena Easton likes to strut, pout, and put it out with knives. Then there's Not Diana from V, who is a murderess. And then there's Not David Hedison, who poses as a cop while cozying up to the sister. These people are alternately working together or trying to kill each other off, depending on the moment. In our cast, we have a few people who have done some stuff. Not Lionel Richie was played by Eugene Clark. He's been in lots of things, including Tech War and the Canadian series ENG and Night Heat. Frank Moore plays Casper. He was in The Long Kiss Goodnight, Murder at 1600, and a lot of Canadian TV and movies. Not David Hedison was played by Robin Ward. Arguably his most famous role was in this, The Starlost. He played Garth on that show. The game containing the secret code this hacker lady chick has made is called Thrillkill. And even for 1984, it looks pretty crappy. You play a secret agent who enters a maze, and it's a first-person shooter type of game. The player uses this optical gun thing you point at the screen. Supposedly the hacker lady is some hot game designer, but I found that difficult to swallow from what we see of this game. Also, this one suffers from being shot mostly at night. Everything is overly dark and muddy. The whole climax takes place at a convention center in Toronto, which is closed for the night, and there aren't any lights on, and only one security guard. Everybody's running around the place in the dark after the sister. And it seems like they lost the plot by the end. See, the information in the code isn't really important. Minor spoiler, it only tells you where the money is hidden. Somehow this hacker lady converted it into a duffel bag full of cash and stashed it. We never actually see her do that. It might have been better to keep it as a bank account number or something. I don't know. Again, Thrillkill had a DVD release, but like Wavelength, only as part of a double bill on both of these discs. Those were also put out by El Chapo Companies. Both are out of print and so unavailable, and it's all but certain they just made a straight transfer from videotape. So, yeah, like Wavelength, I'm calling it still trapped on VHS. Alright, how about something maybe better? Bringing it all back around, we have another TV movie from 1985. This one is called The Tower, which was made for Canadian television and all shot on videotape like a soap opera or the old Doctor Who. This was written and directed by Jim Makachuk, who we last talked about very recently in my New Year's review of Ghost Keeper. This time, Jim went for a more sci-fi edged horror movie. Now, this one is apparently set in the then present day. Nothing really says future, although that might have been better. Anyway, there's this fancy new office tower. So fancy, it has a swimming pool recreation area for employees. Looks like a hotel sauna or something. And a mall-like shopping area. Everything else is office space. Now, this new tower has a brand new computer system called Lola that handles pretty much everything in the building. The idea is efficiency. If Lola watchdogs everything using power, the building can save energy and therefore be cheaper to operate. So one night, as most everyone has gone home for the evening, the designer decides to put this new computer in complete autonomous control. Well, he goes out to a strip club. No, that's literally what he does. Then, Lola decides to go all HAL 9000, or M5 if you prefer, and starts in sealing things off and shutting things down. And, oh yeah, killing people to convert them into energy. A disparate group of office workers and guests and this robber guy, who had the misfortune to stop by that night, have to figure out how to pull the plug on Lola and survive. So, I had a lot of questions here. First of all, how? How can it do that? The whole point of Lola is to automate everything in the building to save power and cut energy costs, right? Well, vaporizing something the mass of a human to the point it winks out of existence instantaneously, like it was hit with a Star Trek phaser beam, would cost far more energy than the computer could ever hope to gain from it. Never mind how it projects that force, or the infrastructure and load-bearing capacity of the wiring it must use to transfer that energy and make it all happen. And on the subject of how the hell can the computer will this telephone receiver to crawl across the desk like this to attack a guy? Okay, we all know how. We can see the string tied to it. But leaving wonky special effects aside, how? Can Lola plan to kill people? Well, okay. Electrocute them when they touch a switch? Well, maybe. But this? Come on. And at the time, trust me, Lola would be using way more power on day-to-day mundane operations than it could ever hope to offset or recover. Even now, 40 years later, something like Lola would still take more energy to run than it was worth it for the building. But the best thing about the tower, of course, were these two chicks at the pool. Nothing wrong with them, am I right? Man, say what you want about Chuck's directing. He sure knew how to cast the cute chicks, didn't he? Oh man, if Lola's looking for heat sources and I was anywhere around this sexy chick, Lola would find us real fast, I tell you what now. So as far as I can tell, none of the cast went on to do much else, and hot neon bikini chick aside, it's no wonder. It's like their line delivery came via wrong-way Corrigan Airlines, because it never arrives at its intended destination. I've seen kids in junior high school plays who have more convincing line delivery than this cast. But the movie is what it is. A very local, made-for-TV project made back in the day using limited resources, analog or primitive digital technology, and a lot of imagination. In that sense, it's kinda cool they could pull it off as well as they did. I kept thinking that The Tower would have been better if they made it as a mini-series, like 4 or 6 episodes. They could have, since it was made for TV after all, and the original station would have gotten more mileage out of it. I think it was always imagined as a TV movie, though. I didn't see any evidence it was designed as a limited series. It does come in 2 forms from what I could tell, a 90-minute cut and one that's 12 minutes longer. That's the one I screened. Honestly, it did feel way too long. There's a lot of filler in that cut, like people running around and stuff, that could have been truncated without losing anything. So, all of these are trapped on VHS. Do they deserve to be saved from oblivion? Well, granted, none of these are 2001. None of them are really so groundbreaking or important that they deserve to be reissued. But out of this batch, I thought Wavelength was the best of them. Wouldn't mind having that all polished up on a nice new Blu-ray. Minimal special effects, but it's a sci-fi movie where they didn't really need them. Murder in Space and The Tower both had potential. Technology has advanced beyond The Tower now, but as a miniseries, it could still get a worthy remake of some kind if set in a near-future world. Thrillkill? Well, that too is kind of old hat at this point. We've seen hackers stealing millions before and since this one. Murder in Space could use an upgrade. I'd love to see a remake of that. Definitely it would need a facelift, but it's a good concept for a murder mystery, and it's not just a run-of-the-mill standard slasher thing. It's a proper murder mystery set in an unusual place. So, there you go. 80s sci-fi trapped on video. It's a shame to see some projects and TV movies languishing on a dead format. I'd like to think that maybe someday we could at least get these kind of things on streaming. Even that doesn't seem very likely, though, and streaming kinda sucks. MOD seems the way to go, a disc made on demand like Warner Archive does, but what are the chances? Anyway, you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.